Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to use the Dialectal journal that I've uploaded to Google Classroom. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the assignment itself. So under Anne of Green Gables, we have AOGG, Anne of Green Gables, Dialectal journal entry number 1. So first thing you have to do is read and or listen to chapters 1 to 13 of Anne of Green Gables. You can do that one of two ways. You could either read the novel online, so I've given you the link to Project Gutenberg, but if you didn't have that link, you would just Google Project Gutenberg Anne of Green Gables, and it should come up right here, and it'll take you to the text of the novel. The other thing that you can do is listen to it on Audible Stories. So it's actually free right now. It's narrated by Rachel McAdams. You have the whole length of the book. Again, I've given you the link, but if you did have to find it from scratch, you would just type in Anne of Green Gables Audible Stories. And it'll take you to that page. Just notice that stories.audible.com, this is the free audiobook. I think the first one may take you to just the regular Audible website, but what you want is stories.audible. And it'll take you to that same book page, and you would click Start Listening. And here you have the little menu. You can jump 30 seconds back, 30 seconds ahead, change the speed if you'd like. You also have a neat chapter menu, so you can go directly to whatever chapter you're going to begin at. Because this is the first entry, of course, we're going to begin at chapter 1. So you'll read the chapters. I'm going to make this demonstration right now, so you'll be able to watch this and you can follow all the steps. Then you're going to do the actual dialectal journal. You choose one quote from this section of the novel. So between chapters 1 and 13, find one quote that is meaningful. And then you're going to turn in your work and mark this assignment as complete. So you can click on the dialectal journal right on this classroom assignment. But I'm going to show you what it will look like when you actually are ready to type. So we have instructions here. This is obviously very small, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. You can either press on the magnifying glass right here on Google Classroom, or if you're using a PC, you can also press the Control button and then the plus button. It's a little grainy, I apologize for that, but dialectal journals are notebooks comprised of journal entries where a student records observations about the text and interacts and engages with the text on a deeper level. Each entry should include quotes as well as higher level analysis. So you're always going to follow these 3 steps. I am going to include the template on every entry that you have to submit. But what's nice about this technique is you could do a dialectal journal for anything that you're reading, and it will help you gain a better understanding and a deeper understanding of what you're reading. So the first step is to find a quote. Find a meaningful and important passage from the assigned reading. Look for passages that move the plot along, advance the conflict, include foreshadowing, or have literary merit. I'd also like to add, you can find a passage that has particularly effective, powerful, or interesting characterization. Write the quote and cite it in MLA format. So if you click on, oh, I don't want to magnify that, make sure that you click off of the magnifying glass, and then you can click on the slide itself, and a text box comes up at each of these quote entries. So you can type in whatever you're quoting. Just notice that if we click off of this, you already have quotation marks within here, but if you were doing this from scratch, you'd just add them yourself. So I already have a quote that I know I'd like to use. So if I'm looking at Project Gutenberg from the scratch, from the beginning, I mean, you can click on any one of the chapter titles up here, or you can also look for a particular quote. So if you press Control F, again, these are PC shortcuts, but if you want to find a particular section, you can just type in a word or a phrase that is really meaningful to you. So I would like to look for Cordelia. And I'm going to go towards the beginning of the book. So Anne and Marilla are having a conversation, and Marilla asks, "What's your name?" The child hesitated for a moment. Will you please call me Cordelia? She said eagerly. Call you Cordelia? Is that your name? No, it's not exactly my name, but I would love to be called Cordelia. It's such a perfectly elegant name. I don't know what on earth you mean. If Cordelia isn't your name, what is? Anne Shirley reluctantly faltered forth the owner of that name. But oh, please do call me Cordelia. It can't matter much to you what you call me if I'm only going to be here a little while, can it? Anne is such an unromantic name. Unromantic fiddlesticks, said the unsympathetic Marilla. Anne is a real good, plain, sensible name. You've no need to be ashamed of it. Oh, I'm not ashamed of it, explained Anne, only I like Cordelia better. I've always imagined that my name was Cordelia. At least I have of late years. When I was young, I used to imagine it was Geraldine. But I like Cordelia better now. But if you call me Anne, please call me Anne spelled with an E. What difference does it make how it's spelled? Asked Marilla with another rusty smile as she picked up the teapot. What makes such a difference? It looks so much nicer. When you hear a name pronounced, can't you always see it in your mind, just as if it was printed out? I can. An A-N-N looks dreadful, but A-N-N-E looks so much more distinguished. If you'll only call me Anne spelled with an E, I shall try to reconcile myself to not being called Cordelia. So I like this whole quote section. I'm going to highlight the entire thing, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it in my dialectal journal. Now, you'll notice that this is a lot of text. It's a little bit too much to use for this assignment. But if you want to include most of the quote, what you can do is you can just use the very beginning of it, and then you can put an ellipsis in here. So we could use our ... and then we'll have the majority of the quote. So I'm just going to actually make this a little bit more manageable. And you can play around with the text boxes also, so you can move these. You could even change the size of the font as well. But you want to pick something that's no more than a couple of paragraphs. And then we have another little text box here. If you notice, again, there's already punctuation, so there's parentheses and a period. And that's what they mean when they're saying that you want to cite this in MLA format. So you want to include the author's last name, which is Montgomery. And the page number we're not going to have because this is all on Project Gutenberg, and there are no pages on this website. So if you look at this, you don't see any page numbers, you just scroll through the entire novel. So you do not need to put a page number, just put the author's last name. And again, you can play around, you can move the size of this box, you can adjust where this is, you could change the font size as well. It's a little big here, so I'll just make it a little bit smaller, that way it matches. Okay, step 2, analyze. Write a brief explanation about the quote. What is happening in the quote and why is it important? How does this quote move the plot along or advance the conflict? Does this quote relate to another part within the text? What symbolic or figurative meaning does this quote include, and what does it mean? So this should be 2 to 3 thorough and complete sentences. They're asking you many questions in this analyze section. You do not have to answer all of them. Just pick whatever question is most relevant to your quote. So I am going to explain this quote, and I am going to say, Anne and Marilla are meeting for the first time. Anne feels unhappy with her name and prefers the All right, so why does this matter? In this section, so we see, look, you can also change your spelling if you make a spelling error. So we can see that Marilla is very practical, very logical, just wants to know the facts, and is a little bit more inventive and imaginative. So we're also starting to think about the idea of identity all the way in the beginning of the book. So that's my little analysis so far. Step 3, connect. These are similar steps, but they're not exactly the same. So when you're analyzing, you're explaining, you're telling a little bit about why it's important. So I mentioned that we learn about the characters. So I could just add a little sentence here. This is an excellent example of characterization through dialogue. Okay, now for the connect step. This is the last one. Connect this quote to one of the class concepts. Why and how does this quote relate to this concept? Be sure to highlight or underline the concept in your explanation. So with young adult literature, we're often talking about identity, growing up, and even coming to terms with your own personality. So if I want to identify that key concept, I'm going to just underline identity, and even bold it. So we have our connection to the larger topic, and is discovering the type of person she wants to become, figuring out how she may fit into her new family, and struggling, though in a comedic and lighthearted manner, with who she is and how she wants others to view her. Now, because this is just one dialectal journal entry, we're starting to think about identity, personality, figuring out what comment the author is making, getting to a theme. But we're not going to have the whole piece of the puzzle just yet because we're just starting to read the novel. So think about these as a way to analyze and explore concepts in what you're reading. But with a few of these dialectal journal entries, you're usually building up to figuring out the author's theme, their central message, what they're trying to comment about life, their universal truth. So that is how you write a dialectal journal entry. Just a couple of things to note. All of this is saved in Google Drive already. And notice how I toggled between the tabs here. So I didn't just write everything from memory. I had to go back to Project Gutenberg and click on that tab. There's a little copying and pasting involved, a little back and forth. If you're listening to the entire novel, that's absolutely fine, but it's going to be challenging to remember everything that your narrator reads. So I would recommend, even if you listen to it, I would still recommend having Project Gutenberg open. That way you can pull quotes from this resource. And that is how you use a dialectal journal and how you create these entries. Thank you for watching.